Radio Kim Inspirasi Infora Islami. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon to the dear listeners of IKIM FM. Welcome to the premiere episode of Global Muslim Matters. It is a talk show that talks about the Muslim current issues that are happening all around the globe. Program between International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies Malaysia and IKIM. And together with me, I have my guest for the first episode, Dr. Ahmad Badri Abdullah. He is the Deputy of Chief Operating Officer of International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies, Malaysia. Assalamualaikum and how are you, Doctor?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today, Doctor. And before we start with this conversation, Doctor, could you perhaps introduce a little bit about yourself and more on the IAIS itself?
My name is Dr. Ahmad Badri Abdullah. I'm currently the Deputy CEO of IAIS Malaysia, or the International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies Malaysia, which is a think tank established in September 2007 as an independent non-profit research think tank. IAIS Malaysia was formally launched by the then Prime Minister of Malaysia and its founding patron Tun Abdullah Haji Ahmad Badawi in 2008. Currently, the primary function of IAIS is to be a global leader in promoting a positive Muslim identity, fostering unity among the international Muslim community, contributing to the country's social development and engaging in a dialogue between civilizations. IAS Malaysia aims to serve as a think tank for the Malaysian government in global affairs and international relations involving the Muslim community. The institute is envisioned to be an agent of positive change and social development in line with the concept and framework of the Malaysia's Madani approach. I think we work through research, publication, strategic communication, consultancy, dialogue, and capacity building. And in fact, IAIS Malaysia is a sister organization to IKIM.
As a brief overview of the conflict between the Palestine and Israel.
Thank you very much. I think, yes, this conflict is a very long overdue conflict. And for the current one, I think it began with a comprehensive attack initiated by the Hamas organization, either from land, air, and water toward southern Israel. In early morning, October the 6th, 2023. During that particular day, Hamas launched more than 5,000 rockets to Israel territories, sending troops in the areas and put in captive more than 100 hostages among Israel civilians and officials. I think that what create this, latest conflict between Palestine and Israel.
And just now you mentioned that they started the attack from land and also water, right? So, but why did Hamas decide to initiate Operation Storm of Al-Aqsa at these particular times?
Hamas operation that is being termed as Storm of Al-Aqsa actually was a surprise attack, especially on the southern Israel, that have been diligently planned. The attack was provoked actually by recent events surrounding the Temple Mount, site in Jerusalem, holy to Jews and Muslims alike. The following are some of the factors that contribute to the timing of the attack. Firstly, Gaza Strip has been suffering from economic blockade by the Israeli regime, which is a blatant violation of human rights principle. And Israeli settlers has been entering the Al-Aqsa Mosque atop of the mountain and praying, which Hamas termed it as a desecration, as a statement of their offensive. And the attack was also a reaction towards the normalization process that is that are taking place that is taking place between Israel and several Arab countries, uh, especially major countries like Saudi Arabia. And for me, among the major provocation that also took place is Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech in the PBB convention,
Mhm.
whereby he showed in his speech he showed the new Middle East map that exhibits the future map of the Middle East region, whereby Palestinian territories like the East Jerusalem, West Bank, and the Gaza Strips
Mhm.
are put under the Israelis' authority.
Mhm.
Um and also, additionally, the Israel regime is also conducting the Red Heifer ritual, a
Mhm.
ritual that is stated in their religious scripture
Mhm.
before the building of the Temple Mount. This is in a way to demolish the Al Aqsa Mosque
Mhm.
in replacement of the Temple Mount.
Mhm.
So Hamas, other than that, Hamas uh, is also having the plan for the operation to include the exchanges of hostages between the Israel regime and also by themselves. So there are multiple motive or factors that created or contributed to the to this kind of attack. So, as you know, the Al Aqsa Mosque compound, known to Muslim as Al Haram Al Sharif, is the third holiest place in Islam, and is the holiest site in Judaism, known to the Jews as Temple Mount. Israeli police raids of Al Aqsa Mosque are considered by Muslims as a major provocation
Mhm.
and have in the past led to violent escalation. The 2021 war between Hamas and Israel was partly triggered by an Israeli raid on Al-Aqsa Mosque. The conflict related to the mosque has also always triggered tension between Israel and Gaza. The increasingly massive Jewish ascent to the mount, as well as Jewish prayer, serve Hamas in sounding alarm about Muslim access to Haram al-Sharif and
Mhm.
Al-Aqsa Mosque being under threat. In some, Hamas Operation Storm of Al-Aqsa was a surprise attack that had been planned, and it was done due to provocation made by the Israeli regime, and the attack was also the attack was a reaction towards the normalization process between Israel and major Arab countries, and also a provocation by the Prime Minister himself in the PBB convention, showing the new Middle East map. I think that's among the factors or the motive that I could enumerate here,
Mhm.
that might be the trigger the triggers for this latest conflict in the region.
Mm. And with all this major provoking, especially from the Israeli sides, in what ways do you think this operation impacts the dynamics of the Palestinian and Israeli conflict, both in the long and short term?
Yeah, the current conflict between Hamas and Israel is part and parcel of a very long-standing Palestinian and Israeli conflict, which has been ongoing for decades. The conflict has been characterized by violence, territorial disputes, and political disagreements.
Mhm.
Um, Firstly, the conflict has advanced towards a more extreme narrative that justify violence and the inevitability of its continuation. So, as of now, it has escalated into a full-blown war, as
Mhm.
being mentioned by the Prime Minister Netanyahu that they are already in a state of war.
Mhm.
Some has also called this is the fifth Arab-Israeli War. The first one was in 1948. The second war was in 1956. The third war was in 1970, 1976, and the fourth one, which is the Yom Kippur War, was took place in 1973. So this time around, some have called this as the fifth Arab-Israeli war, and the Palestinian side has been also fractured by conflict between Fatah, the traditionally dominant party, and its later electoral challenger Hamas, an Islamist group that gained control over the Gaza Strip since 2003 after the Intifada which took place in 2000 in the year 2000. So the Israeli side, on the other hand, has also been experiencing political upheaval, with four inconclusive legislative elections have been held over a span of 2 years. So since 2006, Hamas and Israel have fought many wars, and the most recent was in 2021, and the conflict has resulted in significant. The current conflict has, as of now, resulted in significant loss of life. I think as of now, as we are recording this program, the death toll both in Israel and Gaza is reported to reach more than 100 people, and the destruction of property, I think, has reached in Gaza itself, has reached about, I think, 159 housing has been destroyed in Gaza, and more than 10,000 people are being displaced, and it is likely to have a very long-term consequences for both sides. So for the short term, the conflict is likely to escalate further, leading to more violence and destruction. If not being contained, I think it can lead to a major crisis in the region, as most Arab countries, they need to take sides. They are taking sides in supporting for Palestinians. I think as part and parcel of their, political mileage, they need to have that. So, but for in the long term, the conflict is likely to continue unless a lasting solution is found that addresses the underlying issues that have fueled the conflict for so long. I think the conflict between Israel and Palestine is a complex issue that cannot be reduced to a single event or action. So in that case, the international community has called for an immediate end to the violence and has urged both sides to exercise restraint. However, a lasting solution to the conflict will require a comprehensive approach that addresses the underlying issues that have fueled the conflict for so long. Of course, there will be a cascading or multiplier socio-economic and political effects out of this conflict, regionally, globally. I think nowadays people are talking about, in terms of the global money markets, people are very worried, and also the oil markets, anxiety is all over the place. So I think that would be the multiplier or the cascading effects out of this, latest conflict.
Mm. And Doctor, just now when you mentioned that the conflict has been happening for years, in fact, and of course, since it has been happening for years, um, other things that we also look at usually is the global response from other countries or other society towards the conflict. So, in your perspective, have you seen so far what has been the response of the global community to the ongoing developments between Gaza and Israel right now?
Okay, while Western countries have condemned Hamas for the attack on Israel, some have criticized those countries for neglecting the atrocities committed by Israel against Palestinians. Human Rights Watch, for instance, has accused Israeli authorities of committing crime against humanity, including deliberate attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure in Gaza. The US has also been criticized for sending military aid, including military ships and aircraft near Israel region, which some argue could escalate the conflict further. It is worth noting that the conflict between Israel and Palestine is a complex and long-standing issue that cannot be, as I said, cannot be reduced to a single event or action. The global community has expressed concern and condemnation over the current development in Gaza and Israel. The United Nations, for instance, has called for an immediate end to the violence and has urged both sides to exercise restraint. The European Union has called for an immediate ceasefire and has expressed concern over the loss of civilians' life. The United States also has called for an end to the violence and has expressed support for Israel's right to defend itself. Muslim countries, on the other hand, have also expressed their reaction to the conflict. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Iran has expressed their concern over the development in Gaza Strip. Saudi Arabia, for instance, has issued repeated warnings of a possible escalation in light of the ongoing occupation and the deprivation of the Palestinian people of their legitimate rights, as well as the repeated deliberation provocation against their sanctities. So Saudi Arabia urged the international community to fulfill their responsibilities and activate a credible, peaceful process leading to a two-state solution that achieve security and peace in the region and protect civilians. Qatar, which has been starkly opposed to normalization with Israel, expressed its deep concern over the development in the Gaza Strip. Its Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Israel was solely responsible for the ongoing escalation due to its continuous violation of the rights of the Palestinian people, including the recent repeated intrusion into the holy Al-Aqsa Mosque under the protection of the Israel police. So Kuwait, for example, Kuwait also expressed its grave concern over development between Israel and the Palestinian, blaming Israel for what it called its blatant attacks. Lebanon, Hezbollah, Lebanon Hezbollah said that Hamas operation in Israel was a response to the continued crimes of the occupation and the continued assault on the holy sites. So, in conclusion, the global community has expressed concern and condemnation over the current development in Gaza and Israel. The United Nations, European Union, the United States have called for immediate end to this violence, and have urged both sides to exercise restraint. While Muslim countries, as I mentioned, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Iran, and so on and so forth, have also expressed their grave or a deep concern over the current development in the Gaza Strip. I think the conflict has elicited reaction from different parts of the world, and it is clear that the international community is closely monitoring the situation on the ground right now.
I see. And with many countries all around the world are expressing concern to the conflicts, and of course, each country has its own opinions towards the conflict. So, how about Malaysia? How is the Malaysian government addressing the ongoing situation in the Gaza Strip?
I think for the Malaysian government, I think it has expressed solidarity with the people of Palestine and has called for an urgent UN intervention over the violence in the Gaza Strip. I think some of the key points to consider is that I think the Malaysian Foreign Ministry, I think through Wisma Putra, has expressed concern over the loss of so many lives due to the clashes in the Gaza Strip. Our Prime Minister himself, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, in his X account, has said that Malaysia remains in solidarity with the struggles of the people of Palestine. In fact, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, in UNGA, or the United Nations General Assembly, in September 2023 reiterated, the Malaysia's support for Palestine. And during his speech at the United Nations General Assembly, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim called for a concerted multilateral effort spearheaded by the UN to resolve conflicts around the world, including the Palestine-Israel conflict. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's statement at the General Assembly highlights Malaysia's commitments to supporting Palestine and its people, and his statement also reflects Malaysia's long-standing position on the Palestinian-Israel conflict, that Malaysia has been a vocal supporter of Palestine and has called for an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. I think in the statement by Wisma Putra, Malaysia has criticized the inconsistency in the UN's response to the Israeli regime, and it has called for a more consistent stance in addressing the violence in the Gaza Strip. As of the recording of today's program, I think the Malaysian government has announced its full support of the Palestinian people in terms of them having their right of self determination and to have a sovereign nation state based on the to have a sovereign nation state based on the 1967 territorial agreement. I think in conclusion, I think the Malaysian government has expressed, their solidarity and utmost support with the people of Palestine, and has called for an urgent UN intervention over, the violence in the Gaza Strip, especially to urge the UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting to discuss on the current development in that particular region.
And as we wrap up this interview, Doctor, what could we conclude from this issue?
I think in conclusion, we could say that this is among the major development in the Muslim world. I think the fellow Muslims around the world need to be aware and to be informed about the latest development that is taking place in Palestine. And as Muslims, we need to showcase our full support of our brothers and sisters in that is being tested in Palestine with this latest conflict. We need to galvanize our efforts to help them in any forms of assistance, including to pray to Allah that this unending or prolonged conflict will end soon, in order to bring back peace and security to that particular region, for the safety and the well-being of our fellow Muslim in Palestine, of course. Yeah.
All right, Doctor. Thank you for your insights on today's topic, and we hope that the best outcome of it. And again, thank you, Doctor, for your insights. And we hope that today's discussion will be beneficial to those who are listening to us and watching us directly through FB. And again, thank you for listening to us. Stay tuned to this show every Saturday from 5:15 to 5:54 p.m. only at IKIM Inspirasi Infora Islami. So, Doctor, as we wrap up this interview, what can we conclude from this conversation?
Okay, thank you. I think to conclude our discussion today, I think this is in fact a major event or development in the Muslim world right now. I think, as I mentioned, some have argued that this could be considered as the fifth Arab-Israeli war, and for fellow Muslims around the world, they need to be well informed and well aware regarding this latest development. This is in order for us Muslims to galvanize efforts and assistances towards our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters who are being tested in Palestine or Gaza right now. We need to support our brothers and sisters in terms of highlighting to the international communities that they can't ignore the root causes of the current conflict in Palestine and Israel right now. Those atrocities and violation of human rights done by the Israeli regime towards our brothers and sisters in Palestine.
Mhm.
So at least what we can do is to pray to Allah that Allah will grant the best outcome from this latest development or conflict for our brothers and sisters in that particular region. So inshallah.
Inshallah. And thank you, Doctor, for your insights on today's topic, the latest Palestine Israel conflicts. And we hope that today's conversation will be beneficial to those who are listening to us through radio and also watching us directly through Facebook. And if you miss any part of the show, you can watch it again on our Facebook page, IKIM FM. And dear listeners, let us pray together for a good outcome coming out of this conflict. And Doctor, thank you again for coming to this interview. And dear listeners, stay tuned to listening to IKIM FM Inspirasi Infora Islami.